Du må jo fortelle hvilken vin det da.
And we're recording live from Oslo on Friday night, Tine and Tominga O'Donnell, in a sort of Karma Club recap. And of course, Karma Club, what I think, started from drinking copious amounts of wine in your apartment and talking about how wonderful it would be to have some kind of queer club culture. So in between analysing natural wine, we love natural wine, we started talking about the lack of queer spaces in Oslo, and then I continued talking and you magically started Karma Club.
Ja.
But let's take a step back and see that we're here with Chuck Norris, not exactly a feminist icon, but made by a really cool winemaker called Anthony Tutul, La Sorga. And La Sorga is the big thing that we bond over, right?
My favorite.
Your favorite indeed. You keep threatening to go on holidays there and camping in his vineyard. And he's been to Oslo quite a few times. Really cool guy, makes super funky, really interesting wines. And this one is a bubbling red. And
Finally.
we haven't tried it yet, so...
Oh God.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me this.
It smells like the cow shed. It actually smells
It's
really
like diesel?
bad.
It smells very bad. But it tastes good, maybe? It's sort of the same. But I think it...
Yeah, so this is kind of revolting.
It will be better. It just needs air, because that's the thing with natural wine, that it needs some air, often like 30 minutes.
Yeah, so in 25 minutes time, it will be delicious. I'm sure.
Fyttegrisen.
Ja. Jeg ser det. Men ser du om vi tar opp nå?
I'm not sure.
Yes.
Recording.
Cool, okay. So why don't you tell me, well, let's go back in time and tell me about the inception of Karma Club.
The inception was before I knew. I mean, you probably, well, you know this, that when I met you the first time, I interviewed you for a magazine. It was like, is it 7 years ago?
8 years ago.
8. Sure.
2012. We always have this conversation.
Yes.
But it was 2012.
Yeah. But anyway, I was like writing an email and I was like, let's continue meeting, drink good wine and beer and talk. Because I thought we had this very nice conversation, and at that time I started to really enjoy seeing people.
It sounds like you were a hermit before.
No, I wasn't at all, but it was some kind of new pleasure, I guess. Anyway, and then you went to the States and you came back and we started to hang out, and then the thing in my apartment, in my living room, the wine, and since then we just continued meeting, bringing in good people and wine from travels and sharing, discussing, drinking, and suddenly everyone was queer, including myself.
Well, not suddenly for all of us.
Yeah, I know, but anyway, so the queerness was there all the time, I guess, but yeah, and then
so natural wine kind of oiled the queer machinery that is underlying it.
Yeah, sort of, I guess. Well, it's more about, I think, having a good time and good conversations and meet nice people. And the wine is part of that. And good food, good beer, yeah.
And the first Karma Club was at Khartoum, right?
Yes. By sort of, yeah, we were you there?
Of course I was there.
Yeah, but so when they...
Just tell people who don't know this. Khartoum is a club in Oslo. It's one of the best, loveliest clubs, and it's run by Fadlabi and Karin Eriksson.
And it's an art space.
And it's also an art space. So it's called the Khartoum Center for Contemporary Art.
And it used to be a beer also, a camel beer.
Oh, that's true.
But yeah, I thought it was a joke, but we were there, and one of the guys that ran the place with them, Tiago, he was very drunk, but he was like, "Oh, you gotta have a club here. Bring your girls and your wine."
Thanks, Tiago.
And yeah, and again, I thought it was a joke, but I emailed him, and I think a few months later, it became the first club. And then Chroma, a girl I know from Berlin, like a famous DJ down there, she did this gig at a small room with, I don't know, 150 people.
Yeah, but 50 like the best people.
Yeah. But anyway, so she and Tiago and you, and I guess life happened.
But a character I remember from these wine gatherings at Tine's, with nicer or at least more palatable wine than this, was Constanze Tenvik, who
Oh God, yes!
has designed the claw
Maybe
adorning your body. Yeah, get your boobs in there.
No, we can do the arm. Yes, the arm and the. Yeah.
And she also did one of the Karma Club talks. Right?
Yes, she did in June last year with Chris Kraus or Constance. She was like a moderator, and then Wenche Myhleisen, writer, performance artist, researcher. Yeah, she's a lot.
So what Karma Club does, I guess if I was going to put it into a really sort of short blurb.
Why is this an interview of me?
Because it's about Karma Club.
Yeah, but
we get on to me in a minute. But because I've followed it from afar, I feel like I've been instrumental in it. But it's talks programs, screenings occasionally, certainly natural wine, and then the DJ club culture. So it's all kind of melded into one.
And beer.
And beer, yes, that's true.
And publishing.
Oh God, yeah, and publishing. So and
And
merchandising,
yes.
evidently. But it's a sort of flexible construct, but at the heart of it is fun. And
joy.
Yeah. And we haven't had so much of that recently because we can't go out clubbing.
We had technical problems. That's it. Like indoors. Streamings, Macs crashing, microphones crashing.
But it's not the same, right? I mean, it's not the same as being in a... Some of the images that are taken from Karma Club are really generate such a sense of nostalgia because there's all these sweaty people dancing in a tiny enclosed space. You can even sort of feel the perspiration running off the walls and mixing with the natural wine that's being spilled on the dance floor, and disco brewed beer, etc. And you can't get that anymore. So we're kind of reduced to sitting in our homes and watching live streaming, which is great that you're doing, but, you know, I miss people.
Yeah, me too.
But hopefully soon, and hopefully...
That said, it's people there now watching.
Yeah.
So, and I forgot. I forgot it was actually people there. I'm so used to just seeing the screen.
Yeah, well, here's one live person and then lots of, hopefully, other people.
Hopefully, yes.
Enjoying their Friday night.
Worldwide.
Indeed. All right, it's your turn to ask me some questions now.
Yeah. So, the thing here, it just seems like a box wine or something, but it's not. It's actually a collection of your publications. This project you're gonna talk about, which you've been doing for years.
Yeah, for 4 years, well, 5 years. It's called Museum on the Move, and now I'm going to try and get this, share a screen so that we can talk over, and you're going to have to get maybe a close-up of me, or maybe not. You are going to get a close-up of me.
Yeah!
Sorry about this. From the start.
That's fine.
Okay. So it's called Museum on the Move, and it's organised by the Museum in Oslo. And I started working as a curator there in 2015. And the museum was about to move. The new museum is opening at the waterfront of Bjørvika later in 2020. But in this kind of in-between period where it was moving from where we are now, in fact, Tine in Oslo, which is on the east side of Oslo, on the east side of the river, which historically has had loads of demographic issues. People live 10 years shorter here than they do on the other side of the river, etc. And it has a number of different kind of communities, artist communities, different people, different nationalities, different religions. There are like 5 different houses of worship just a stone's throw from my apartment. So I thought that the area itself that the museum in a sense would be moving through, because it's currently there, and it'd be moving there, and it's literally like 1 mile down the road, would be an interesting point of departure for different art projects, because it's an area which is so rich and so wonderful, but very often the things that get highlighted about it are the stuff that screams headlines, not necessarily the positive aspects of this neighborhood, or these neighborhoods, I should say. So, and also with this, I took what's called what I've called a queer curatorial approach, which I always get asked about, what does that mean?
I love it.
And it's queer in the sense that it's quite a loose definition. So with the artists that I invited to come and do different projects, often in collaboration with other arts organizations like the Young Artists Association or New Music, or 1857, which was a gallery that was there. So it wasn't just me at all, it was a collaborative venture. But asked them to find some aspect of the neighborhood that had been overlooked or ignored or marginalized in some way. And of course, as a queer person, my focus is very much on the queer narratives that exist, or the queer stories that have somehow become hidden and forgotten in the cityscape. So that's why one of the first projects, you see them all, 16 of them dotted out here around on this Google map, was Sam Hultin, I'm Every Lesbian. And Sam had done this project previously in Malmö. And what they did is to interview local lesbians. And lesbian is quite a loose term in this setting. So someone who identifies as female and is queer in some way, and then ask them to retell their stories. And then through kind of rhizomatic network, you get another person who then says, oh, you should talk to this person, or there was this queer basketball group at the time, you should talk to them. And then after a while, with all the research that they did, suddenly you have, 60 odd stories which come from this area, but completely ignored, completely overlooked. So this is the opening of that project, which is the first one we did in Witness on the Move, and that's me giving the opening speech. And it was quite emotional, actually, because it was only 3 days after Orlando, the Orlando massacre. So it just felt incredibly important to gather as a group of queer people and, in a sense, do this sort of memorial walk through the city. So what Sam's project entails is not all of the stories. All of the stories are available as a soundtrack and on this map, but to have some of the stories retold live at their various settings. And they invited 3 other people to actually narrate the stories. So previously Sam had done it themselves, but now wanted to invite others to do it. Oh, a little aside. This is Sam and Zanele Muholi, South African activist and artist. So this is another instance of a collaboration with Kunstplus. So they did a talk together. So these are the 3 people that Sam invited to come and lead the talks. So it's Lara Okafor, the first one, and then Matilde de Khan, the second one, and then Fatawit Hakim did the last one. So the 3 city walks over this over the summer. So the first one started with Oslo Pride. This is Lara leading, in many ways, way too many people, like 150 people who turned up through the city of Oslo. So this is just down the corner, down at Tine. And further down in Grönland, retelling these stories. I know you try to spot people in the crowd to see who you know.
Lots of stripes.
And then this like really beautiful and empowering image which you put on the front cover of Billy Kunst.
Yeah, the magazine I'm working in. Yeah.
So it's Tine's, we call it a day job, but it seems to be more like a day and night job.
Now is a day job, but it depends.
But
Karma is more like a day and night.
But all of them seem to meld into one. So this is just like the image of, just seems to capture so much of that kind of pride.
Could I ask you, who is the one with the shorts? Or is it the skirt?
It was probably shorts. I don't know.
To the left there?
I don't know.
I always wonder who she is.
Yeah, well,
No?
put it out on some kind of forum, and I'm sure Gacy might return it to you. Throw it out into the Sapphic universe, and they might answer back. And this is another one Lara did. So you're gradually moving from the east side of town down in this area that we're currently in, and then over the river and down Torgata, and in the end you end up in front of the. Oh, have some more?
No.
Why don't you? You end up in front of the Parliament building. So there's a Parliament building, and then this is one of the older members of our community thanking Sam for their. It's really, really cute image. It was really felt like an important project to do, and a colleague of mine, a straight colleague of mine, in fact, said, "Oh, it's just like it became like a sculpture, this sort of moving body through the city streets, taking up space where one had otherwise been marginalised." So that was cool. It was a good project to start with, and I think it points to some of the projects have been done which are like fundamentally queer in nature, like this one is, where the artist is queer, the thematic itself is queer, in the sense the audience is queer. But then there have been other projects where maybe the artist has been queer, but the thematic hasn't been. So I think we have probably statistically worked with more queer artists, but not all of them have done queer art projects. This is Matilda doing her talk, and while the wheel of doom goes around, oh, there we go, Fatawit doing the final one. You can see the much colder when Fatawit did hers. Leaping ahead to Trollkrem pot. Is this going down a bit better now?
I'm not sure. I think we're just getting used to it. That's how it is, you know. Once you get used to things, then
it's kind of gone from cowshed to biscuit. I think sort of burnt biscuit. It's actually I quite like it now.
You do?
Yeah.
Well, it's actually bad again once you pour it. Shall I? You want more?
I don't want to go back to the. Oh, you mean it needs airing in the glass? Yeah, please.
For sure, yes.
I can just go with Trollkrem. So Trollkrem was a duo consisting of Tor Erik Bø and Jenny Bringakin, who'd been working largely facilitating other people's performances for a number of years, and then they gradually began to put a split, and Tor Erik did this project on his own with us. And what he conceived of was a performance art tour of the area of Grönland. So there were a number of different sites, and they were all spaced out on this map you can see here now. All largely non-art spaces. Maybe with the last one, which was Nordic Black Theatre, was obviously an art space, but not one for contemporary art. So these, the Grönland Bazaar shopping centre for one of them, Ivars Kro, that sadly no longer exists, which was what you...
It doesn't?
No, it's shut down.
So what's there?
Well, a restaurant, I think now.
It was like a brown pub, for those who don't know. Like the brownest pub in town.
Yeah, so brown pub in Norway is a phrase you use to describe what the Americans would call a dive bar, and the Brits might call like an old man pub.
Old man pub.
That's what they're renowned as. So for this one, there was a mix of national performance artists and international. And the ones I'm about to show you is from the kind of international one at Ivars Kro, which was Seth Bogard, Vaginal Davis, and Dynasty Handbag, whom Tor Erik had wanted to work with for a very long time. And got them there. And in order to kind of introduce them to a local audience, we had a sort of chat show bit first, where Tor Erik was in the role of Graham Norton, let's say, and then the performers sort of sashayed out to join him and chat a little bit about their work. So we split the upstairs of the pub in two. It was completely jam-packed, so it was really, really brilliant evening, but it was a good way of introducing them. So here they are, chat showing.
I was there, it was amazing. I was in the left corner here, but you can't see.
Probably see your legs, but you can see your socks.
Maybe.
And then first up was Vaginal Davis, who performed the iconic piece, Tom Cruise Loves Women, with a backdrop of loads of homoerotic poses with Tom Cruise. And the song which I recorded, which is on my Instagram if you want to check it out, I couldn't get it uploaded here.
Oh no!
My pussy's a cactus.
Can't you sing it? Try. I mean, sort of.
No, I can't sing it, it's silly, but I can get my phone. And
it's pretty unforgettable.
Well, it was.
And
If you look at
Monday, National David, and I ain't nothing but a retarded whore.
and everyone screams woo.
and 2 meters tall. I mean,
yeah, that is one.
with high-heeled shoes.
Yeah, it was really great. Some of these pictures are taken by Maria Pasana, who is a photographer based in Oslo, and she documented all of these. And I think one aspect of when you talk about performance art and documentation, it's like, how do you even capture this idea of being there, or this feeling of being there, if you weren't there? So I think she has these really kind of characteristic images with strong flash, and at least it gives some kind of hint that, you know, they're kind of Nan Golden-esque in the way that they capture a moment, but just also in the same sense illustrate that you missed out if you weren't there. Dynasty handbag, oh, so great. I only got 2 little clips of her because I just forgot to document it. She was so great.
I think I did.
Did you? Well, you should get them and give them to me, because I only have tiny little clips.
Oh.
And you're a big fan of this one, of Seth Bogart.
Yeah.
And his striptease routine, and with his exotic dancers hired for the evening. Oh, there we go. Oh, swiftly moving on to Pride. So, I mean, obviously talking about earlier, this queer thematic running through this project. A Pride float is quite sort of, in many ways, an obvious iteration of this kind of approach, but it's something that Tor Erik really wanted to do. And we're the first museum in Norway to have had a Pride float. And it was really good fun. It was open to everyone who wanted to participate in it. Tor Erik had created... Oh! Yeah,
Constanza!
There she is.
The blue one. That's Constanza, the one that made the claw.
You'll get a close-up of her in a bit. And what Tor Erik decided to do with building this sculpture, which was an homage to John Waters, but then it also had like a babbling brook, so it tried to invoke aspects of Norse mythology. And then everyone was invited to sing karaoke, because karaoke is one of those kind of platforms where a lot of people examine their queerness and maybe some drag identities and learn, in a sense, to perform as someone other than society has decided they should be. So we had that, so basically karaoke singing, and then Tyler Matthew Owen came.
Oh, Tyler!
And you recognise he's got the Rick Owens rip-off dress, but similar one to the one Vaginal Davis was wearing. Guro Tronsmo Marin Horshol jumping into this mountainous thing that Tor Erik had created, this brook that was... So basically created a water feature on the back of this truck, which then burst and spilled water all over the street. And then that is Constanza Tenvik. You can see the John Waters sculpture in the background there. She broke into a traditional Norwegian stev when our technology failed us at one point. So that was really great. And then Tor Erik himself, this is in front of the Parliament building on the last kind of stretch of where the Oslo Pride Parade goes, or won't go this year, of course, but will hopefully go next year. Singing Firestarter by the Prodigy. And I took
Singing? Well,
yeah, screaming. And this is the director of the Munch Museum, Stein Olav Henriksen, which I thought was, I included it. This is a photograph that I'd taken, not Maria Pasana, just to show the kind of institutional backing that the project had. And I think the way he approached his presence there was he asked if it was okay if he was joined, if it was appropriate. And I think that kind of reflection around whether it's okay to take up space or whether it's okay to join the party, but then joining it and putting the kind of institutional backing behind the project, it was just so important. So this is a memory which is dear to my heart. And I just took one last example from Trollkern and they had 5 different performances, but this was the Thanksgiving, which ended the whole project, which was at the Cafe Theatre. Tor Erik Bø and Jenny Bringaker formally divorced there, and brought back a number of the performers who had been in some of the earlier iterations of the program, and also was part of the kind of extended Trollkern family. They included Toril Tombola, Toril Hagen, who'd also done an amazing Liza Minnelli impersonation on the Pride float, and Heike, who did these wearable tablecloths with sort of mementos from previous iterations of the project, and they'd also done Grand Ambassade with this jumper textile project, which has now had a second life in another exhibition context. And of course was Frida Marida doing her cross between Islamic call to prayer and Edith Piaf, I Have No Regrets, which was beautiful, an absolutely stunning voice, but I also included it in this talk, and I included it in the one that we did earlier for Karma Club, because of all the backlash that Frida Marida got afterwards. With some of the most horrific things which were written about her in the commentary section, which I'm not going to read out loud, but I think you have this idea that Scandinavia is this kind of safe haven for queer bodies or trans bodies, and of course in many instances it isn't, and I think this is why it brings back this idea that it's so important to create these kind of safe spaces in the way that you're doing with Karma Club, where you have space to be yourself within a relatively safe environment. So it just means that it just sort of, in a sense, politicizes the work that you're doing. It's not just about having fun and drinking wine and dancing, although of course it is that as well, but it also has a very important political function, which I think is important to underline.
And you're going to write about that too later.
Yes, I am going to write about it in your book.
Yeah, because this virus situation finally got me some funding. We've been talking about it for years, but yeah, finally.
So when's it coming out, or don't we get it?
Who knows? I mean, I gotta stay alive too. It's a lot of work, but I mean, some of the texts are written, some are being written now, and some are being produced the next year, like yours, I guess.
Sometime. It'll be produced over the summer.
Oh.
Because we have this, and I like the way it's intertwined, this kind of my practice and your practice. And the final project I'm just going to show you is one that kind of encapsulates that. So Kishna Stupa Maria Bordov did a film cabaret called Summer Night by the Beach, where they follow this community of queer people, the cuddly queers, Kulsa queers, and they sort of juxtapose it with the new architecture and the new borough that's emerging on the waterfront, and then draw in history from the cabaret culture from the early 1920s, 30s, which was at Kongshamn. So this is really kind of rich tapestry of the importance of clubbing, if you like, or cabaret stages, and alternative kind of characters in the Oslo scene, which have been kind of included into this. And there's a really beautiful behind the scenes film, which is on kunstkritikk.no, if you want to watch that. It's about a 20-minute behind the scenes of how this was made. Here are the cuddly queers bathed in this kind of orange light, which plays on Fassbinder's chorale. That's been kind of part of the inspiration for it.
You know, the color for Karma Club at Maricas is orange.
Oh,
I'm just saying it. It's like that.
Perfect. And there's these cruise ship tourists, remember them? And there we go, a little collage of the party that Karma Club did, the opening party. And Tine decorated the atrium of the old Munch Museum like a beach, because the title of the work is Summer Night by the Beach. There's your Karma Club claw. And then this is in the end of August, so it was still warm enough to sit outside, and then this kind of, the greenery and this orange became this really, really beautiful.
Yeah, and the DJs in the green light, they are playing actually, or they were playing last night, but you could still see it because it's online in the archive at Maricas. They had about an hour live DJ set. Amazing.
And there was also the way that the atrium is built. It has these kind of slats, so people were dancing on the slats and then falling off them onto the beach. You know?
You can't see it there, but it's actually quite maybe 10 centimeters or something.
Yeah,
So calm.
safety not great. But then people just sat on it, and there was Sync were great, and then we had disco beer, and
people fell in love.
People
Blah blah blah.
And then I don't know if you can see the beer which was made.
Can't you just take it into the? Yeah.
So the same colouring and this really nice beer you made actually.
It's some left still. It was supposed to be a second batch now, but due to the corona thing, it's on hold, of course, like everything.
Yeah.
But it's called Kråkebolle, and it's sea urchin, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, the little.
That's the name of the beer, because the beers have names of the animals, or fruit, or vegetables.
Great, yeah. So watch the space for Kråkebolle. And I think that brings me to the end of my slideshow. This is just a little collage of all the different projects that have been done, and to try and wrap it up in the way that Tine started this, we did a little publication for each project, which are collected in this collection box, which we're going to do a party to celebrate that all of these things have been, and then, of course, lockdown happened and COVID-19 happened. But at some point, hopefully this will be celebrated. And I think I just want to say at the end that a lot of this kind of thinking and this queer approach will be taken into the New Monk Museum, will be taken into the programming there. So I think it's really important that this 4-year project doesn't just disappear and be something fun that we did for 4 years, but that it continues in the New Monk Museum. And where you will also have a presence, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so too.
So, should we let people get on with this is the final slide, which shows what all the different projects were. Should we let people get on with their Friday night now? Or
5 more minutes maybe?
5 minutes?
Let's get on the big screen again.
Okay, and I think we can stop sharing. No?
You have to go up there again, I guess.
Pause share.
It's an amazing system, actually.
Oh! There you go.
So what do you think now? It's not that much better, is it?
No.
You just pretend.
I bought 2 bottles of this as well.
Yeah, but I mean, it's funny.
It's one of the more interesting ones. That's
interesting.
Really
That's the word.
But I think Jean-Claude Van Damme is probably a nicer one, which is this beautiful crisp white. I think it's a 100% Chenin Blanc. But I think he should do some kick-ass women. I mean, he's now got all of these kind of dude-like fighters. He's got Chuck Norris, Jackie Chan, Jean-Claude Van Damme. He needs to do some really kick-ass women.
Yeah, but he had the Sorgasm. That's sort of a female.
Sure, but it's a little bit too much of a close-up of genitalia.
I think it was banned at the Norwegian shops. And speaking about being banned, Maricas has been banned many times. So has we.
You've been banned, or they've been
Well,
banned?
Karma. Well, they too. I mean, because it's sexual content, and or if you show a breast, then it's, especially what looks like female breasts or trans breasts. I mean, yeah. So we had this discussion today how to avoid that, putting out photos and.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
Because Facebook, Instagram.
So free the nipple, not exactly Instagram friendly.
Not if you're a female, or they think you're a female.
Oh, yes. Well, we should end on a slightly more cheery note than being banned.
Yeah.
Yeah. When do you foresee the next time we can all be together in a space and sweat?
I don't know. I mean, some of the largest events are already, probably not going to happen. We're supposed to have the biggest one in April, like huge, and it's still not official because the day before, the virus. So I'm not sure. It was supposed to be like 20 events, but I think maybe some smaller ones in June. But I think September, October.
Fingers crossed for them.
Yeah,
We're still going to do a pride breakfast on the roof here.
yeah. The roof
20 people.
here.
Because the pride parade starts just down the road, so we've often had a pride breakfast here first, and then we all go down and do the pride parade.
But didn't it burn?
No, stop it.
No.
No, stop it.
Okay.
Okay, well, have a great Friday night. Bye
Skål.
from Oslo.